As the doomed airliner hurtled towards the earth, the cabin came apart, and the next thing she knew, Juliane found herself strapped alone to a row of seats, falling and spinning silently from over 10,000 feet above the rainforest. She plummeted through the jungle canopy and slammed on the forest floor. When she awoke the next day, Juliane was amazed to realize she had survived the 2-mile fall with just a broken collarbone and a bad gash in her arm. After failing to find any other survivors, Juliane relied on what her father had taught her, that walking downstream will always lead to civilization. So, with a bag of candy that had fallen from the plane and one sandal, she started walking. For 10 days, Juliane hobbled, swam, or floated downstream. Her wounds became infected and she was plagued by maggots while having to dodge crocodiles, piranhas, and relentless insects. Eventually, she came to a shack where she slept, and she was soon discovered by Peruvian loggers.
Installs his friend Taft as basically a younger version of himself, and runs off to Africa where he kills 11,000 animals and brings their bodies to the Smithsonian. When he gets back, it turns out Taft isn't Teddy Roosevelt 2.0, so Teddy starts rethinking that third term. But Republicans aren't about to give up their incumbent president for someone who was only supposed to be VP. So Teddy makes his own party. It was during his third-party presidential campaign that a man in the crowd shot him in the chest and he died. Kidding. Bullet passed through a steel eyeglass case and 50 sheets of paper, but yeah, it definitely pierced the skin. So he begrudgingly tells the crowd,
"Sorry friends, but I've just been shot, so I'll have to keep this short."
30 minutes later,
"Because I believe the American people can decide for themselves, not now."
Another hour later,
"And that, friends, is why you should vote progressive." All right, you can help me down now. I'm feeling kind of dizzy.
Despite all that, he ended up splitting the vote because first past the post is a terrible system, and Wilson won instead.
Artie took it upon himself to cover the retreat of his fellow soldiers by doing the only reasonable thing: jumping atop a burning tank and using the 50 cal to lay down cover fire. Now, quick science break. In order to move about the battlefield, tanks are oftentimes filled with gasoline. Lots of gasoline. And every action movie in the world has reminded us, fire makes gasoline kind of, explode. So in addition to being completely exposed behind a machine gun, he was also standing atop a giant metal burning bomb. But he held his ground for over an hour, beating back 6 German tanks and waves of enemy soldiers, who were all trying desperately to take out this little American that just wouldn't die. When he finally ran out of ammo, he slid off the tank and headed towards Allied forces. As Murphy said in his own autobiography, "I slide off the tank destroyer and without once looking back, walk down the road toward the forest. If the Germans want to shoot me, let them. I am too weak from fear and exhaustion."
Her father, King Kaidu, began to prepare some eligible suitors for her. Kuriyun was not afraid to speak her mind to her father and rebelliously announced that she could never marry a man unless he was able to defeat her in a wrestling match. Since she showed so much strength, Kaidu gave his daughter his word that she would be free to marry any man of her choosing. An official proclamation was written and spread across the empire announcing that his daughter was looking for a husband as long as he defeated her in wrestling. The entry fee was 100 horses. If they lost, they'd have to forfeit their horses to the House of Ogedai, which would only increase the wealth and power of their army. Despite the fact that horses are such a huge part of Mongolian culture, people usually only had 1 or 2 per household, if they were lucky. Owning 100 horses was no simple task. A man would have had to come from some kind of nobility to even collect the entry fee. We know that at least 100 men showed up at the House of Ogedai to challenge Kuriyun to a match, because she collected a fleet of over 10,000 horses.
a fur trapper active in the early parts of the 19th century in the American West, Mr. Glass was unfortunately mauled by a grizzly bear during one trapping expedition. Although he did kill the bear in hand-to-hand combat, he was severely wounded during the attack and passed out from shock. Left for dead by his companions, he regained consciousness only to find himself abandoned and completely without food or equipment of any kind. So he proceeded to clean and dress his wounds using the skin of the dead bear as bandaging. He then trekked back to civilization over a grueling 6-week journey. During this journey, he repeatedly fought off wolves, let maggots eat one of his legs to prevent gangrene from setting in, and even constructed a raft from twigs and driftwood to travel downriver at one point.
In 1801, Shih married a pirate commander named Jing Yi and soon ruled by his side as he expanded his empire, unifying countless small scattered crews of pirates into an organized and increasingly powerful coalition. When her husband died suddenly in 1807, Shih knew exactly what to do. She stepped in to claim the leadership for herself, taking control of somewhere between 40,000 and 60,000 pirates. Their acceptance of a woman as their commander remains a remarkable testament to both her political skill and the respect she must have earned from the crew. The Chinese government devoted considerable effort to crushing the pirates, but thanks in large part to Shih's strategic skill, her fleets became so powerful that the government eventually stopped trying to destroy them and started trying to negotiate with them instead.
He was appointed second in command of No. 3 Commando in Operation Archery. This was an attack which took place on December the 27th, 1941. He would pull out his sword, scream to the top of his lungs, then go into a full attack, gambling with his life as the bullets flew around him. For his actions in Dunkirk and Vaxoi, Jack received the Military Cross and Bar. It is said that one night during this operation, he snuck out with a corporal, going from one German post to the next, and capturing the guards with his clay-baked sword. Lieutenant Colonel John Malcolm Thorpe Fleming Churchill managed to capture more than 40 Germans in one single raid during World War II. After all this, he received the Distinguished Service Order. Just 1 year after this fantastic action, Jack was set to assist Josip Broz Tito's forces in Yugoslavia. He led a full assault in the midst of fire and mortars and was the last man standing after running out of ammunition. Before a German grenade knocked him out, he stood there playing "Will Ye No Come Back Again" on his bagpipes.
Born in 1162, Genghis Khan assembled the Mongolian Empire, the greatest empire of all time, and led his armored soldiers from Japan to Iran, leaving behind an estimated death toll in the tens of millions. The only thing that he seemed to love more than killing was lovemaking. The man had several wives and thousands of partners, so much so that a study conducted by the American Journal of Human Genetics suggested that as much as 8% of the Asian population and 0.5% of the global population are descendants of this war machine.
Simo would go out dressed in winter snow camouflage and take a day's worth of supplies, crawl to his position, and sit in the snow for hours, in temperatures as low as minus 40 degrees Celsius or minus 40 degrees Fahrenheit. He would also camouflage his position by packing snow in front of him to prevent the muzzle blast wafting up snow, and put snow in his mouth to control the vapor of his breath from giving away his position. Simo preferred to use iron sights instead of a scope, which were obtained from a captured Soviet version of the rifle. This is because the scopes could give away his position, reflecting the sun's glare or cloud up in the cold environment. He would zero his sights at the common combat distance of 150 meters. By the end of the Winter War, Simo was credited with 505 confirmed sniper kills of Soviet soldiers, which he achieved within 100 days, and in the time of year where daylight hours are low. This makes him the record holder for the highest number of confirmed sniper kills. He even gained a nickname, the White Death.